My name is Brett Hummel, founder of ProMazo, and I'm from San Diego, California. I went to Notre Dame because my neighbor was actually part of the Irish Guard, and when I was in 8th grade, I had a chance to go to a football game with USC playing, and there were about 300,000 people who were at the game, and so it seemed like a huge city for me at the time. Again, I was 13 or 14, and I didn't go back to visit ever again. So when I applied, it seemed like a really fun place, and not that it wasn't, but when I got there, I realized very quickly that South Bend, Indiana is the middle of a cornfield. I founded ProMazo because I saw there was a gap between students actually learning things in the classroom and then being able to apply that outside. There were kind of two parts to that formation. The first one was the fact that typically most students only get one internship during their junior summer. And as a result, they only really have one shot at a company. And so most students tend to be very selective and conservative in that choice. And my idea was, with virtual work, why couldn't students have multiple options? Why couldn't they test drive multiple companies, just like companies test drive students, and therefore get themselves a chance to gain professional experience in multiple areas, and therefore when they went into an interview room, actually be able to say, I did these 3 things for this company, whether that's a marketing survey all the way across to product development, so we could help a wide variety of students. Ironically, my first startup idea was called ProMazo, so we kind of make fun of it as being ProMazo 1. The idea there was shortly after I graduated, one of the things I felt was that once you graduate, all that connection is really kind of lost and you're rebuilding your entire network again. And it's very difficult because throughout your whole teen years, all the way through college, you really have a network that's already pre-built for you. And so how do you build that network? I was always very fascinated by this idea of millennials and the transition that was occurring with them when they moved into the workplace. So as a result, what I saw was the ability to merge the two, whereby we created a system for companies because companies didn't understand how to retain them. At the same time, millennials were saying, well, I don't have traditional social structures like getting married or having children that would normally ground me inside a company. And so what I decided to create was almost, at the time, Facebook for business. Literally at the same time, we had sold our first proof of concept to Western Digital, and I remember reading on the internet about 2 weeks later that Yammer had come out and raised about, I think, $100 million or some incredible number. So I realized very quickly that we were no longer going to be in that business. ProMazo, in terms of where it is today, it's pretty incredible where we've come. The company has only really been incorporated for just about a year now. And when we first started, we were actually a bunch of students, actually at Notre Dame, and even some of the student government offices where they were just giving us extra space late at night, to now where we actually have full-time offices. We have interns actually coming in that we get to groom. We have full-time staff that are helping us. We have support of the universities. It's been pretty incredible in just almost a year's time of actually getting incorporated all the things that have changed. But I think the neat part about it is that we've always tried to stay core, and that's the idea that students really can do incredible things, and we're there to support that. My daily routine, if I had to describe it in one word, is scattered. That's both a good thing and a bad thing. I think for all the other people on the team that sometimes are trying to get a hold of me for different types of activities and things I need to get done. But that's just a generation of the fact that there are so many things to be doing. And when you're in a startup, you're kind of in this whole idea of how do you do the most things at the most time. So ProMazo right now is almost 24/7, and we work 7 days a week. But that's what really kind of creates the family aspect. Even though it is a little scattered in terms of everyone's pulled in so many different directions, everyone understands and is responsible for that other person, so they make sure and they care about the person enough to get that other work done. In terms of a daily routine, it usually involves some form of plane or rental car right now. So to give a very candid example, I left Notre Dame December 5th of 2015. The next time I saw my house was April 25th. So all during that time, we were kind of sleeping on couches, on hotel rooms, traveling, trains, basically living out of a suitcase. So I say my daily routine involves, on some levels, working with the team that is the full-time team and also the interns during the summer, making sure that everything's kind of moving in the right direction. But my biggest priority right now is actually kind of spreading the message of ProMazo and bringing some of the initial companies back into ProMazo. As I grow as a professional, one of the things that I've actually been focusing much more on is developing more of the follow-up. So it's always very easy to go through and take the meetings, but it's really the hard stuff of at night when you're tired after doing 15, 20 of these pitches a day to actually go back through and take the notes down, send the emails, and make sure they have the right proper pitch text, and it has to happen very quickly. And that's been one of the most interesting and challenging parts of the job so far for me. I actually take this from my dad. So he said the best advice that he ever got was actually from the founder of McDonald's, or the owner of McDonald's, Ray Kroc. And he came into his MBA class in Indiana, and he said that he gave a lecture, and then one of the students actually got up and asked that very same question: what's the best thing, and how do you become an entrepreneur? And he said that you should go put your pencil down right now and go out and fail. And my dad said that stuck with him forever, and he told me that as well. And I think that's the most important piece, because I can't tell you enough times how the failure of ProMazo, one, in a sense, that led to this version of it, or this whole idea of millennial talent, never would have happened unless I would have started with it. And then I think a final piece really is looking ahead and saying, there are going to be big times where you're going to be out there all alone and no one's going to be there. You're going to feel kind of all alone. And what I always say to the team here is that you have to take the small moments that you've had, the small successes, and those are the things that drive you through the hard times, because no one's going to believe in what you're doing. No one's going to say that it's going to be perfect, and you're always going to have a lot of people trying to tear it down, and it's the core belief that you're going to have that's going to sustain you through it. The next year, ProMazo is going to be pretty amazing. How we kind of describe it is this idea that we've proven the model at multiple places, and we've also proven it across multiple industries. And what we're starting to see now is just a pickup from companies actually starting to take this very, very seriously. And so in a sense, what I think this looks like in the year is, I describe it almost like a dam. And so we're starting to see the first cracks in it. And I think we'll start to see those coming up here in the next semester or two. And then that's right when we start building that, all the kind of momentum will start going. So in terms of where we look to go today, I think it's really starting out at building our brand, building it with those anchor companies, proving that the model not only works with our starting points, but can actually scale substantially, and actually starting to really build this as a full-on method. So I think we've got all the building blocks, and then now it's synthesizing everything that we've learned, making them into processes that we know work, but now it's actually sitting there sometimes, and you can actually just see it, physically touch it. You can see when the students are training, Five Guys managers, you can see it when they're presenting into Whirlpool. Those are the kind of really interesting things where the model is actually working. It's a neat experience to see it move from an idea, and I think this year is really where it kind of becomes resolute and kind of part of the lexicon.